Alright guys, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make your through dovetails. Okay, this application can be used for boxes, drawers, various projects that you'll be faced with throughout the years here in this high school wood shop. So welcome back to the wood shop again. Let's talk a little bit about safety. Always make sure you have your personal protective equipment on. You're gonna need your safety glasses. Please make sure that those are on. You know where they are. And then I do recommend wearing the apron. This will keep the sawdust off your clothes. Okay, you know where those are in the shop as well. All right, a few things that you're gonna need. Let me take my board apart here. You're gonna need your box sides, your drawer sides, whatever you have. Again, you're gonna wanna lay them out on the table, okay, just like this. You want to make sure that you pay attention to your grain orientation. Obviously for this lumber that I have here, this is some engineered lumber and there's no real grain orientation. But you want to make sure that the cups, the annual rings on your lumber, okay, the inside of the tree needs to face the inside or the outside of the box. The bark of the tree needs to face the inside of the box, okay? So if I put this together, the bark of the tree should be in here, okay? That'll help when lumber goes to contract and expand. That'll keep this joint nice and tight for years to come. All right, so you got your material, it's already established. Some other things that you're gonna need. When you're at the planer, you're gonna need to take, when you're planing your boards down, you're gonna need to take a sacrificial board or a scrap piece of lumber. And you need to send it through the planer as well to get it to the exact same thickness as the sides of your box, fronts, backs, sides. Okay, once you have all of these pieces, then we can go over to our dovetail jig. Okay, so this is our PorterCable dovetail jig. Very easy setup. There's directions on the side of it for doing these through dovetails. Okay, so if you need to have a refresher, just simply read through here. It'll also tell you how to kind of tune up your jig to make your joints tighter or looser, depending on, you know, how yours turn out. Okay. All right, so review that prior to starting. That'll help you along the journey. First thing I want to do is I'm going to actually take my sacrificial board. I'm going to slide it in on this horizontal surface here. Okay, this board needs to be, again, needs to be the same thickness as the sides, fronts, backs of your project. I'm going to slide it in just a little bit. I don't want it to come in front of this vertical surface here. I'm going to clamp that down just snug. Then I'm going to loosen up my clamp here, these two lock knobs, and I'm going to make sure that my jig, okay, is sitting nice and flat. Notice how I put my thumb and my finger on there to push down on the jig. That's going to allow me to snug it up. Okay, once I get that set, I need to take and loosen up with the Allen wrench here this left side adjustment. Okay, so I stick my Allen wrench in here, loosen this up. This is a positioning guide. Okay, that'll help me position out where my fingers are to my lumber. Okay, so I need to move that all the way over to the left. That'll come into play in just a minute. Then I take my box fronts, my box sides, whatever you have, okay, and you need to actually set that up. You need to label it. Typically for drawers, you're gonna cut your tails on the drawer sides, okay? That will add to the strength of the drawer. It will also add to the strength of the joint. Okay, so if I have this labeled out, we'll call this a side. And then I'm going to turn this one around so it represents the back. Okay, so now I have my lumber set up correctly. I'm going to need to take my side, and I need the outside surface of that is going to face the base of the actual router jig. Okay, so outside faces the base of the router jig. Okay, I'm going to snug that up just for a minute because I'm going to bring you around over here and kind of point out what I'm going through. The through dovetail tips, always cut your tails first. Okay, so you're going to go through, check this off. This is also in the manual, and we're going to cut our pins second. So I'm cutting my tails first on the side of my drawer. Next, I'm going to need that small scale. Okay. All of these items are found in the Festool router case, and I'll walk you over there in just a sec. So I'm going to loosen this up just a little bit. I'm going to slide it over. I'm going to take some measurements here. Oh, a little too far. it's pretty important that you get this board centered inside of these fingers. You want it centered to the closest one on the left, and you want it centered on the, in a sense, the farthest one to the right. So you want to make sure that it's centered in here. So use your miniature scale here, okay? This has graduations down to a 1/64 of an inch, okay? Right now it looks like I got it all centered up, okay? We'll find out in the end here though. We're going to take our Allen wrench, we're going to take this left side adjustment, and we're going to bump that over. That's going to help me position not only my sideboards, but it'll help position my pin boards, okay, when I go to cut those in just a little bit. So I got this all set up. Now I need to actually bring this backboard. I'm going to turn it around because I just cut some sample dovetails for someone else. I'm going to turn it around so I have a fresh edge. I'm going to bump that up against my board. I'm going to clamp it down. It's really important that you take this groove right here on the actual template and you line it up with your edge of your board. So as you look at this, all of it has to set in line. If it's too far in or too far out, that will determine kind of how your joinery will be tight or loose. And you can adjust that with your pins when we get to cutting that, okay? But for cutting our tails, you need to make sure it's on that line, okay? All right, so my jig's all set up. I'm ready to go on this end. I need to come over here and I need to get my router set up, okay? Again, here's our Festool router. Okay, again, anything green on here has a functioning purpose. It either is a dial for power, trigger to turn it on, okay, clamp release mechanisms, ratcheting holds for turning the spindle or holding the spindle, okay. So all of this stuff that you see in front of you, the Allen wrench, the scale, the bits for the job, the wrench, the template inserts, the bushings, all come out of this case. So again, you need to come over to this case. All the tools and supplies for the Festool are in this case, okay? All right, back to business. We are cutting the tails first. So I'm gonna turn my router upside down. I'm gonna grab the correct bit. I'm gonna take it out of its case. And when you take it out of its case, make sure that you take the case, put it back into the sleeve, so that way it doesn't blow away or fall on the floor and become a tripping hazard. We want the 7.5 degree dovetail bit. Okay, we're going to put that in there. We're going to hold on to the green button and we're going to tighten up our collet. And I want to set my dovetail bit, okay, so that way there's about 1/8 of an inch of the shank between the flute, or where it's cut, where the bit is cut, and the collet. We want that much room so that way it doesn't hit inside our bushing when we actually go to use that. So I'm going to tighten this down by hand. I'm going to grab my wrench. I'm going to snug this up. And again, you want this tight because you don't want it spinning out on you. Then, according to our tips on the side here, we're going to be looking for the correct bushing that will fit this jig. And it happens to be this 3/4 OD bushing, and it should slide right into these fingers. Okay, that'll help us guide along. All you need to do with this, just make sure it's tight on there, set it into the base of the router, and 2 thumbs, push. Snaps that insert in, and we're ready to go. Okay? All right. I take my router and notice it's still unplugged. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set the depth of the bit. So I loosen the lock knob on the left handle and I push down on the router. That's going to bottom out on my depth stop that's already set up for you from the factory. Okay, so this distance is determined based on the thickness of your backer board and also your side pin boards and tail boards. Okay, so this depth and everything's all set up for you. Next, I take my router, I'm going to put it up onto the jig. Always hold on to your router. Again, this is a very expensive router. Please don't ever let it hit the floor. Take my cord. Notice how my cord is not in my way. I do not want a tripping hazard, not on my area or anywhere behind me. Okay, I'm going to start and I'm going to work my way from left or from the right to the left. Okay, and then I'm going to come back through and I'm going to clean it up again. Okay, when I'm done, I let my router come to a complete stop. I always unplug my tool, okay? And then I'm gonna take my tool and I'm gonna set it off onto the table. Now, typically when drawer construction is happening, you would have 4 of these to cut, 1 on each end of both sides, okay? So that's 4 total cuts. For my demonstration, I'm only cutting 1, so this is gonna come out. I'm gonna set it on the table here, okay? I'm gonna mark it because I'm gonna forget what side I was working on. I'm gonna go A, because that's what I'm working on right now. And we're gonna call this one A as well. So that way when I go to put this joint together, it matches up perfectly. I can take my router then, I'm gonna bring it back over to where I was setting up before. I'm gonna release my handle, let this plunge router base come back up. I'm gonna take my insert out, because I do not need that right now. I'm gonna take my bit, I'm gonna remove my bit. Now again, if you're cutting boxes, always cut all of your tails first, then cut all your pins second. Okay, do them all in one shot. So that way when you got the jig set up, it's ready to go for you. Always put your bits away. These bits are kind of expensive and we don't want the carbide cutting surface to be chipped. We want to keep them nice and sharp because that'll help when we're cutting our hardwoods. Again, I'm cutting fairly soft pine today, so it's going to cut really smooth. If you're cutting oaks, maples, cherries, it will be a little bit more of a difficult cut. Okay. Tighten this up. What I'm putting in right now is the straight bit for cutting our pins. Okay, so I'm going to snug that down. I need to change not only the bushing on my router, but I also need to change this router template, and I'll change that in a second. I'm going to put my bushing in here. This is a smaller bushing, 5/8 bushing I believe. Snap that into place. The router's ready to go. I need to come over here and I need to set up my lumber. Okay, so for the last cut, the outside of my board was facing the base. For the pins, I need the outside of my board facing me. So I'm going to take this, go right down here, and slide it up into my jig. And again, you want to make sure it's nice and tight to this left side guide. Slide it up, lock it in place. And again, if you need to adjust for different thicknesses of boards, just simply turn these 2 lock knobs here. Okay, all right, back up. We're going to take our template now and we're going to flip it around. So we got to loosen these 2 large black knobs. I'm going to loosen them up quite a ways. Reason for that being, I have my brass knobs already set. I don't want any chance of those moving when I go to lift this up. So I'm going to pull it out towards me, then I'm going to lift it up, then I'm going to turn it around, set it back down in the slot, push it ahead, hold down on it with my hand, tighten up my lock knobs. Once they're nice and snug, I'm back in business. This router jig and the router really makes dovetails super easy. Take my tool, I need to set my depth stop up again, slide it into this groove on the left side, set my depth, lock it in place. Lock my router in, check what I'm doing. I'm going to start right here and I'm going to work my way from right to left. And again, what I did there is I cut from right to left, and then I came back through with a left to right cleanup cut. I'm going to unplug my router right now. I'm going to take and release the plunge, bring this back up, set it over here on the table, and remove my board. Okay. Check my joinery for fit, slide it together, and look at that. Got my through dovetails, they're all completed. Okay. Just as easy as that, folks. You can do it too. Happy dovetailing!